Just so you know, my household is kind of chaotic right now because we're going to the Labyrinth Masquerade Ball tonight, and it's a really fun event. And we just got home from a very busy day, and so we're changing gears, running around, putting on costumes, trying to figure out what has to be done.
Turn it up, swashbucklers! You're listening to Under the Crossbones, episode number 157. My name is Phil Johnson. I'm your host for the show each and every week. Thanks for tuning in and telling your friends and visiting sponsors and sending donations and all that cool stuff that you do that helps me keep the old boat afloat. I appreciate it. On the show today, a very cool guest. We're going to hear from Daniel Rover, singer of Quartermaster. Now, if you haven't seen Quartermaster yet, they're a West Coast pirate vocal group. Very cool stuff. And they're great. Daniel himself, I would classify as super interesting dude. Yeah. With lots of different aspects to his life and career that we're going to talk about. We're going to be talking about pirate music. We're going to be talking about Disney Imagineering and theme park design. We're going to be talking about Shakespeare and Dickens and Lewis Carroll and playwriting. There's so much stuff in this interview. I think you're really, really going to dig it. And before that, we're going to hear a little bit from SR Staley, who's got a new book coming out called Calusa Spirits. He gave me a buzz on the old ring-a-dingy, and we taped a shorty to let you know about what he's up to, too. So that's coming up. I'm going to keep this part kind of short today. I know you're sad, right? Some people don't like to hear me yak at the beginning of the show, but I like to do it. So it's my show. But anyway, I'm going to keep it a little short today, because I have 1,000 things going on. We have a super duper amount of show ahead for you that with just tons of great stuff in it. And I wasted like 2 hours today with the AT&T people here trying to fix my slow internet that's been slow for a month now, and nobody can seem to figure out why. And we're still dealing with it. It's still not fixed. So I got to play with that some more, and then do the other 8,000 things that I need to get done today. So we're gonna whip through this intro section here today, but there are tour dates coming up. This week on September the 11th, I'll be at Winter's Tavern in Pacifica, California. On the 12th, I'll be at Retro Junkie in Walnut Creek, California. Those are both headlining shows. On the 13th, I'll be at Hop Dogma Brewery in Half Moon Bay, California. And then we whip out to the Midwest on September the 21st. I'll be at the Pix Theater in Lapeer, Michigan, headlining with Joe DeVito from New York that night. That's going to be a great show. We're raising money to help kids get arts classes, visual arts, musical arts, acting arts, that kind of stuff. On September the 22nd, I'll be at the Temple Theater in Saginaw, Michigan. I am hosting this show. It is stacked with headliners, and it is a giant, beautiful theater. I can't wait to do this one. It's going to be really fun. And then on September the 26th, I'll be at the World Series of Comedy at the Belterra Casino in Florence, Indiana. So there's discount codes for that. If you want to come out to the World Series of Comedy, if you're anywhere near Florence, Indiana, and you want to see a great week of killer comedians from all over the country, it's a really fun festival. My show is on September the 26th, my first set anyway, but it's a whole week-long thing. Get in touch with me if you want that discount code. We'll hook you up. Lots of other tour dates coming up. Edmonton, Canada, Arizona, Nevada, Minnesota, Florida, Oregon, Washington. Going places, man. Going places. So let's get into our talk here with SR Staley. He's got a new book coming out called Calusa Spirits. It's the third book in the Pirate of Panther Bay series. And he gave me a call on the old buzzy phony thing so we can find out what he's up to and what they're doing with the release around the book. Some cool stuff. Let's check it out. Here's SR Staley. And so how you been?
I have been doing great. So really, really busy with a lot of the writing and my work at Florida State, which is very fulfilling because we just have great students. And every day I walk in the classroom and I'm just thrilled at their ability to just be open to new ideas. And of course, writing fiction keeps me fresh and young as well. So that helps too.
Certainly. So what's coming up? What's coming out? What's your new stuff?
Yeah, the newest thing I'm really excited about is Calusa Spirits, which is the third book in the Pirate of Panther Bay trilogy. And we're going to be launching it in a virtual book launch on September 19th, which is Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Of course.
So we're really excited. We always thought about, wouldn't it be cool if one of the books came out at a time when we could do it on Talk Like a Pirate Day. And here it is. It took us 3 books to do it, but we finally made it.
And so what's the difference between a regular book release and a virtual book release?
Well, the virtual book release will allow people to participate no matter where they are in the world in the actual launch. So we're going to set up prizes that people can win. It'll be on Facebook. So if they go to, actually, we'll have links on my blog, which is blog.srstaley.com, and my website, which is srstaley.com, as well as my Facebook author page. And so people can go in, and on September 19th, it's going to start, I think we're saying it's going to start at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And people can watch what's happening. They can ask questions about anything they want, about the books, the characters. We will have prizes for people when they participate, and so they can participate in that as well. So it's actually like being at a party, but actually physically not being there. But we're going to try to do everything we can to make people feel like they're actually in the room with us.
Nice. That's fun. That sounds really fun. Is there a place to pre-order the book and such?
Oh, yeah. Actually, Southern Yellow Pine Publishing is my publisher, and they're an indie press out of Florida, actually, and that is syppublishing.com. And pre-orders are available there, and pretty soon we're going to have it available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I think not sure if we're going to get that link up by Labor Day or not, but we're working on it right now, and we've come pretty close. But right now, if they go to syppublishing.com, they can pre-order that as well as order the other 2 books in the series.
Okay.
We'll have lots of ways for people to get a hold of it.
Cool. I have to admit that when I saw your tweet about it the other day, and I was like, Sam's starting a liquor company?
Yeah. So, yeah. Actually, I wonder if that was my tweet or if that was my publisher's tweet. Yeah, it was one of the virtual. So we're having a virtual launch. Anybody can be part of it, but we're partnering with Ology Brewing, which is it's really probably the coolest brewery in the Tallahassee and North Florida region. Very, very popular. And we've been talking to them because they've only been up and running for about, actually less than a year, I think, actually, at this point. Okay. And so we're partnering with them, and they're very excited to be partnering with us. And we think they've got a brand that they've built that is really first class. So we're going to have some people local. So if you're in North Florida or you want to travel to North Florida, to Tallahassee, you're welcome to come. So we're going to have that going on locally. But the main event is really the virtual launch because we want to include as many people as possible. So, we couldn't quite get rum. But, these days, having a 100% rum venue is kind of difficult, or at least where they are, They're kind of secret. But we figured, craft brew, we got that covered.
Right. Cool. So what's the brief synopsis of the new book?
Yeah, well, this one is actually very interesting. So all of these books in the Pirate of Panther Bay series are going to be read separately, but they are part of a series. Uh-huh. So in the 3rd book, the pirate captain, Isabella, so she's a female pirate captain and an escaped slave. She and her crew are being chased by the Spanish colonial powers of the time, and they're trying to grab her because, just keep their ships free and whatever. But they actually chase her. The book Calusa Spirits opens up in a pitched battle south of Cuba. And then they survive that, but they end up getting chased up the west coast of Florida. So I've taken her in the 3 books from, which is the U.S. Virgin Islands to Puerto Rico to Haiti, also known as Hispaniola at the time. And now we're taking her through Cuba and up the west coast of Florida, where she runs into a rogue band of Calusa Indians, which was a trick to actually make this work, but it really worked out really cool. And a lot of my beta readers just loved it.
Nice.
And the Calusa Indians are a fierce warrior tribe that were in southern Florida and the Everglades at this period of time. Actually, we're taking place a little later, like a decade later than the last Western known archaeological, or at least a recorded history.
Okay.
But if you've ever been to the Everglades, that, all the Calusa Indians didn't disappear. So we kind of build on that. And we also build on the mythology and what we know about the Indians. But they were a warrior tribe. And so having pirates clash with a warrior tribe, which is also really ticked off at all these Spanish and British colonists who've been trying to kick their butts for years, creates some sparks. But we weave it through in a plot that actually makes sense, I think. Well, I know. But we still also remain true to the history. These are historical novels, so they're not fantasy. Right. So we definitely try to nest it in what we know about the Indians and how they acted. And so when people read the book, they'll really get a sense of how the Calusa Indians actually lived at the time. But it also fuses some of this tension and conflict between Native Americans and colonials. And of course, pirates aren't colonists. But, if you're a Calusa Indian, all you know is they're the white man,
right,
and they're going to come and try to take over your culture. Now, Isabella is African, but that still is not Everglades Indian. So that's still an alien. So I get to play with that theme a little bit as well.
Nice. That sounds fun, man. I don't think I've ever seen that particular matchup in a pirate novel before. So that sounds really exciting. And the other books are great. So it should be definitely a fun book. I can't see where it wouldn't be. So good for you.
Yeah, the Tortuga Bay, which was the second book in the series, did very well. We won numerous literary awards, and we think Calusa Spirits is going to do actually, it's better. I think it's, of the three books, frankly, I think it's my best so far. But then I'm a writer, and I'm getting better with each novel.
Sure.
But it's really exciting, and one of the things that excited me is I haven't seen this kind of matchup before, and I thought, you know what, as a historian, an adventure guy, I think I could actually make something work with this, and I'm really excited about it.
Nice. That's great, man. So it's out September 19th, Talk Like a Pirate Day. Hit us with those websites one more time.
Yeah, so Southern Yellow Pine Publishing is syppublishing.com. That's where people can get more information about all my books from my publisher. We also are going to have a virtual book launch, which is on Facebook. And so if you go to Facebook and search Calusa Spirits Virtual Book Launch, you should get right to the Facebook page and get all the cool details. I will have information on my author page on Facebook, which is SR Staley author page as well. And I will be continuing to update my website, which is srstaley.com, as well as my blog, which is blog.srstaley.com. So all of those are areas you can get information about the book launch. You can win cool prizes. We're still putting the list together, but it looks like we're going to have some really cool sunglasses, and we're going to have some. Actually, I was talking about we're going to give away signed copies of the book. Actually, the grand prize is a character in the fourth book.
Oh,
so I'm really excited to work with someone on that. Yeah, so the grand prize of the virtual book launch is going to be whoever wins it. They will get to either be or name a character in the fourth book.
Oh, that's
and
very cool.
I will work with them personally on crafting the character. So they can, if they want to be mean, I can make them mean. If they want to be cool and romantic and dashing, I can make them cool and romantic and dashing. And I'm just, so it'll be tricked to try and weave that into the plot. But I think I've got enough layers that I can do it and really do some pretty interesting things. So that's pretty neat.
Oh, that is great. That is a very cool prize. I like that a lot. That's very, very cool. Yeah. Well, man, this is, it sounds great. Congratulations on getting the new stuff out, and I'll make sure that all that, linkage is in the show notes so everybody can go check it out. And it sounds like great stuff. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Phil. And I appreciate Under the Crossbones. You guys, you're one of the most diverse podcasts I watch and see, and I just love how you mix it up. And so every time a podcast comes up, I'm looking forward to it. I know I'm going to learn something different. I'm going to find another world of the pirate culture, contemporary and historical, that I didn't know before. So you're doing a great service for us out here, trying to keep it up with it all and trying to put it all in context. So thanks for what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot, and I appreciate your ongoing support of the show too. That's very cool of you. I appreciate it. And there you go. That was SR Staley checking in on his new book, Calusa Spirits, which, of course, you can get from srstaley.com or syppublishing.com. And make sure to go look them up on Facebook, where they're going to do all that cool stuff around the release of the book. It's going to be fun. Another thing you should check out if you like cool pirate t-shirts, and I know you do. Who doesn't? Come on. If you're listening to this show, you like cool pirate t-shirts. I want you to go over to underthecrossbones.com/shirt. And right there, I have curated over 100 really cool pirate t-shirts for you through TeePublic, and they are a company that works with independent t-shirt artists. And when you buy a t-shirt from them, the artist gets a cut, TeePublic gets a little cut, I get a little cut. Makes everybody happy because you got a new shirt. And I got them sexy ones, funny ones, scary ones, all sorts of good stuff there. So go check out the pirate shirts at underthecrossbones.com/shirt. If you're enjoying the show, come join us over on Facebook. That's facebook.com/underthecrossbones. On Twitter, we're at undercrossbones. And all the show notes for this episode will be at underthecrossbones.com/157. And of course, make sure you're subscribed in whatever you're listening to your podcast currently on. Click that subscribe button, and then you will get the new episodes every week as soon as they come out. And if you want to help support the show, you would be my good friend. I would appreciate it a whole bunch. Do that over at underthecrossbones.com/support. There's a little PayPal box there. You can drop a donation in there of any amount that you want. Maybe the price of a bottle of rum. Since I don't drink rum, you could donate the money. That would be great. There's an Amazon banner there. If you click that little Amazon banner, you go buy yourself something nice. Have no regard for anyone but yourself. You can do that. Amazon kicks me back a few shekels, and that's a helpful thing too. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, like any of the number of sponsors you hear during the show, that's cheap, easy. We can make that happen. Again, go to underthecrossbones.com/support. Okay, so let's get to our talk with Daniel Rover, singer of Quartermaster. And like I said, this dude does a lot of stuff, a lot of intriguing stuff. And I think it's going to be really fun. We're going to talk about a bunch of things, including pirate music and Quartermaster and all the cool stuff that those guys are doing. All right, so let's dig in. Here we go. Here he is, Daniel Rover, singer. I was privileged to see you guys play at the Long Beach Festival. That was really fun. I got to introduce you and all that kind of good stuff. How do you, within the sphere of pirate music, how do you define what you guys do?
Well, I was brought up at Renaissance fairs where there was a tradition of keeping alive a lot of old folk music that had to do with drinking and sex and, of course, sea shanties. It seems to be this category of music that men sing in particular. And I know there are a lot of groups that are mixed gender, but there were a couple of groups that I grew up on, like the group Oak, Ash, and Thorn, who were at the Renaissance fair. I loved their 3-part harmony interpretation of old, what I call men's music. And as I started to get a little older, and I loved to sing, and I kind of was starting to crave that sound, and I thought, I wonder if I could actually be in a harmony group that sang that kind of music. So I looked around to see if there were any groups like that around, and there wasn't anything around that was exactly what I was looking for. And so I happened to be in a madrigal group. The madrigal group is called the Britain Ensemble.
Okay.
And the leader of that group was a gentleman by the name of James Hendricks, who is not only a fixture at the Renaissance Fair community in California, but also in the Civil War community. Anytime there was a Civil War recreation, he was one of the guys at the camp who in the evenings when everybody was sitting around the campfire and drinking and telling stories, he would get out his concertina or a guitar or some kind of period instrument, because he's one of those living history guys. So he doesn't just have a guitar, he has like a bouzouki, and and he knew all these old songs. And so as director of our madrigal group, I approached him one day and said, I'm really interested in having a men's group, a small group of guys who can sing 3-part harmony and sing all this old men's music that I love so much. And he said, yeah, I'm up for that. And he's not only a talented performer, but he's a composer and an arranger. And I knew we'd be able to do some original music as well. So as this group started to take shape and we were searching for an identity and a name and thought about where we would take this new sound we were creating for ourselves, it seemed really obvious that the niche, what is that word? Niche for this is piracy, because pirate fairs didn't used to exist, 15, 20 years ago. They're kind of relatively new on the scene, but now that they're around, it seemed like a perfect spot for us to fit into. So it didn't take us very much work to dig into our closets and dig out some pirate gear and to kind of give ourselves a pirate identity. And when we started promoting ourselves that way to Renaissance fairs and other festivals as a pirate group, they're incredibly welcoming because pirates are just really popular these days.
Yeah, certainly. And so did you always set out to have like an 8-person group like you've got, or were you just starting with a trio or so?
Our voices weren't quite professional enough where we could rely on ourselves to be like a trio, where we could each hold our harmony as individual singers. So I thought that each group, tenor, baritone, and bass, really needs to have at least 2 voices on it at any given time. So that would make 6 guys. But inevitably somebody's sick, or somebody's out of town, or somebody's got a bar mitzvah, or you couldn't always depend on 6 guys being available. So then we started adding to each group, with the hopeful number being 9, so that there's at least 3 guys prepared to sing their part on any given day. Okay. And at the moment we've got 8 in our group, and that's been working out really well.
Yeah, I guess that would lend sort of a blurring of the pitchiness sometimes to have more people like that. My first thought was that you'd have to be even more exact to lock in with that many people, but I guess the blurring does make sense too. That's interesting.
Well, but exactness is always a goal. When we practice, we want to sound tight. We are amateur singers, but we work really hard to make sure we sound good. And like right now, we're working on our second recording. So we have a first album. Right now, we're thinking about our second album, and we know that microphones, they pick up everything, every little mistake.
Yes, they do.
Every time we're out of syncopation, or somebody gets a word wrong, you hear it. And so we want that tight sound. And so we practice a lot.
Yeah, there is nothing more soul crushing than listening back to that first take of a vocal.
Oh, soul crushing is exactly the right phrase.
You go, oh man, I thought I was way better than that. So then how do you guys, so you are doing a combination of original material and the old stuff. And is that a sort of a group project to decide on which material gets done?
It's between me and James. He acts as our musical director. I act as our director.
Okay.
So the two of us come up with our program. Of course, we take suggestions from the rest of the crew. And every once in a while, like Cal loves to do research, he'll go online and listen to music. But James doesn't have a lot of time. Singing pirate music, it's not a profession. It's a hobby.
Right.
I wish it paid better, but it doesn't. And James has to focus his life, unfortunately, on things that actually pay. I would love to just buy his time so that all James had to do was create arrangements of new songs, because I write lyrics and I love writing new songs.
Uh-huh.
So I'll come up with a new lyric and I'll hand it to James and he'll set it to music and come up with the chords. And that's just great. But these days it only happens 2 or 3 times a year. I would love to come up with a new song like every month. I would love to just start cranking this stuff out. But James doesn't quite have enough time to do that.
Yeah. And it's songwriting is a time-consuming process. I know it all too well.
And it sure is.
Yeah.
It sure is.
I keep every morning I sit down, I'm like, I should be writing a new song. And it doesn't always happen because there's email to be answered, right?
Life is right. Life is distracting.
So what was the first gig that you guys did as a group?
Let's see. What was our first gig? I'm guessing our first gig was at the Southern California Renaissance Fair.
Oh, okay.
Because we've had a relationship with them since the 1970s. We're old guys. Our madrigal group had been singing there on and off for 30, 40 years. And so when we said, hey, we've got a pirate band, the Renaissance Fair is always, not always, but has recently had a pirate weekend.
Uh-huh.
Now they theme their weekends. So it's Time Traveler weekend, or it's Doctor Who weekend. I don't know. But anyway, they've been having a pirate weekend. So we signed up for that and they were very happy to have us.
Okay.
But since then, we've also been performing at the Northern California Pirate Festival in Vallejo, which is an awesome event.
Yeah, that's a great one.
The recent pirate invasion in Long Beach. What a fantastic event that is. And the more you look around, there's pirate events all over the place. There's one in Vegas. We heard there was one in Lompoc, California this weekend that we weren't able to get to. So there's a lot going on, and we try to do as many of them as we can.
Nice.
We also dress up in Victorian clothes, and rather than being pirates, we're more of sort of pub singers.
Okay.
And so we'll go to the Dickens Christmas Fair in San Francisco. That's every November, December.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There's also a really good Dickens Festival in Riverside, California. That's every February. So we've sung at those events too in our Victorian garb.
Oh, nice. Very cool. Well, we'll definitely cross paths up here because that's my neck of the woods for sure. So very nice.
Yeah.
I think the Ren fairs have not just gone with theme weekends. I think they've just given up and allowed people to do them because people were doing that stuff anyway. So they thought we might as well monetize it. Yeah.
Yeah. Those of us who grew up on the California fairs in the like the 80s, back when they were very, very historically oriented. That's kind of in our blood because we'll never forget Phyllis Patterson was just always really, really strict about that stuff. She used to send around people from the entertainment office to watch your shows. And if you did anything anachronistic, you got a demerit. And it's a very different world now. The audience coming to a Renaissance fair really expects a lot of fantasy. They want fairies and dragons and magic. Not at all the English village historically that Phyllis Patterson would have insisted on. So yeah, having pirates at the Renaissance fair, that used to be an outrageous faux pas. Now it's something that just happens every day.
Right.
And there's really nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. The times have changed a little bit. It's a good thing.
Yeah, certainly. So let's go back. How did you originally get into the Ren Fair scene? Because everybody in that scene sees it as, yeah, well, that's of course you end up in the Ren Fair scene, but normal people out in the regular world go, oh my God, how do you end up in a Ren Fair scene?
Renaissance fairs are incredible opportunities because they require a lot of performers to bring the village to life. And it's not a big budget event. So they don't have a lot of money to spend on performers. So they really rely on people who are willing to come and do this as a hobby on weekends.
Sure.
So depending on what kind of a hobbyist you are, maybe you're one of those, what I call Renaissance wallpaper people who creates the sort of the wonderful background of the village. So, maybe you are part of a guild where you represent, Celts or craftsmen or, whatever your thing is, or maybe you play music or maybe you dance or do one of those sort of background things where you basically just hang out for the weekend with your clan and have a good time. But then there's also stage performers, and the stage performers are a different deal because they get booked on the stages in those half-hour time slots. And whether that's a musical act or a play or a comedy or something like that, or juggling, those usually get paid not a lot of money, but a certain amount of money. And so my personal experience was that when I was a teenager, I auditioned to be an actor at the Renaissance Fair.
Okay.
So we're talking about, I was probably like 1978. It just sounds like such ancient history.
I was 6 years old, if you want to feel old.
Yeah. So I don't know. Were you dragged to Renaissance fairs as a kid?
No, my parents missed all that. I mean, we have the giant one in Casa de Fruta here, but we never made it to that for some reason when I was a kid.
Right. So I grew up in Santa Rosa. So my local Renaissance fair was the one that was in Novato in Marin County.
Yeah.
So we're talking like I first set foot on that fair when I was a teenager in the mid 70s, and it had only been around a couple of years at that point, but was already fully developed. Man, it was already like Disneyland. It was huge. It was, fully stocked with performers of every kind and people bringing all this history to life. And these ladies were sitting there spinning their wool into yarn, and there were looms and people, forging at the blacksmith shop. I mean, it was just an incredible representation of an interpretation of Renaissance life. It was mind blowing to me as a teenager.
Sure, yeah.
And I was already a fan of theme parks and the idea that a person could go and buy a ticket to just completely escape from the 20th century into another world. And I know that Renaissance fairs are now not quite as popular as they were back then. I mean, when it was in the heyday in the 70s and 80s, those events would get like 20, 30,000 people on a Saturday to come and pack those things. Now those events maybe draw 5,000 people, or I don't know what the numbers are like elsewhere in the country, but the California events are much smaller than they used to be. They're still really good. And like we just talked about, they're kind of a different product than they used to be.
Yeah.
But they were sensational back in the early days. So I was really attracted to that as a performer. So I got hired as an actor, and I would do some shows that were just sort of, I got hired into whatever was going on the stages, and you'd get like maybe $30 a day. And they had, back then they called food tickets. They would say, well, here's some food tickets. A food ticket was like worth $1, and it was good at some food booth at the fair.
Uh-huh.
And so that was kind of the life back then. But eventually, as I got a little better at this, I started my own company, and I started a group called the Reduced Shakespeare Company.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the Reduced Shakespeare Company is now very well known.
Uh-huh.
They're a touring company of comics that have been around since the 80s, and that was my brainchild.
Huh.
So we used to do half-hour Hamlet, half-hour Romeo and Juliet at the Renaissance fairs, and we couldn't afford to do it for $30 a day each. So we started passing the hat, because our friends who were jugglers looked like they were making a lot more money than $30 a day when they were soliciting for coins and donations after their show.
Uh-huh.
So we started doing a pass the hat version of our show and really whipping the audience into a frenzy. So that by the end of our show, they were having a great time and just pulling out their wallets and their purses and making a donation afterwards. So during the 80s, I was the Reduced Shakespeare Company, along with my performing partners, Jess Winfield and Adam Long. The three of us really turned our act into a shining star at the Renaissance Fair. So that was almost a full-time job.
Yeah, that's gone well past Renaissance fairs at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, we put together our best work as a theater piece and took it to the Edinburgh Festival in Scotland in 1987.
Okay.
And then it just went on to great fame. Now it's played in London at the Criterion Theatre in the West End I think it ran for 9 years. So it was a huge success there. And now it's a big global success because people do it everywhere. They do it at schools, drama festivals, Shakespeare festivals. The show is called The Complete Works of William Shakespeare Abridged in parentheses, and it's become a very successful show. So that was kind of how I spent my 20s, and that was a great gig. That was really fun. Now younger people are doing that, which is fine. I took a big break from performing in the 90s when I went to work for Disney as an artist. So I worked in theme park design.
Okay.
So I was an Imagineer.
The question there always is, well, how do you go from doing abbreviated Shakespeare to becoming an Imagineer? Everybody always wants to know how Imagineers become Imagineers, and every single story I've heard is different.
Right. So I had tried to get into Imagineering for years because I loved theater. Theater was my background. I was trained as an actor, and I was also an artist. So I designed sets, and I built sets and painted sets. And was just always very involved in theater projects.
Uh-huh.
So when the Reduced Shakespeare Company thing was kind of changing gears a little bit, and I had been trying to get into Imagineering for several years, I finally met somebody who worked at the fair on weekends, the wonderful Kent Elofsson, who worked as an Imagineer full time, and he had worked his way up from starting as Peter Pan at the park.
Oh gosh.
So he had started being one of those characters at the park, and he had worked his way up into the art department and then into Imagineering. And so he was working on these fabulous projects, like they were renovating Fantasyland in the early 80s.
Oh, yeah.
He was working on that. And he built a couple of those big water parks like Typhoon Lagoon in Orlando, Florida. And so I met Kent and I said, Imagineering, I've always wanted to work at Imagineering. And he said, well, he looked at my artwork. He said, well, you're very skilled as an artist and you've got a lot of good stuff in your resume, but Imagineering is a really tough place to get into. You really need strong credentials, a lot of experience, or you need to know somebody. And I said, well, I know you now. He said, yeah, you do. You do know me. Let me see what I can do. So he was just starting to work on Euro Disneyland, which is now called Disneyland Paris.
Sure, yeah.
But at the time, it was just in its early development. And they needed a lot of new artists for that. And they were willing to do some training. So my timing was perfect. So I started there when I was 28. I was in the late 1980s. And I got to work on models. So I started as a model maker, and I had the time of my life. I basically trained on the job. Was just very lucky to get in. I made some pittance, like $16 an hour. And I built fantastic stuff. I became a real craftsman because I'd never had access to a whole shop full of tools before. I didn't know how to use a scroll saw or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
So I had a great 12-year career at Imagineering. I grew into a production designer and an art director, and I worked on Splash Mountains and Toontowns, and worked on projects in Florida and Paris and Tokyo, and had a blast. It was a total departure from performing,
Sure.
But I was also an artist. So it was a great opportunity to change gears and explore the artistic side of my life.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And to see all those ideas that you're putting down on paper to come out as a 3-dimensional, huge, giant thing in the middle of Paris or outside of Paris is such an amazing thing to see. What was the very first thing that you had that experience with?
Even like the first thing I worked on there?
Yeah, that where you saw something go from paper to 3-dimensional thing.
Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about It's a Small World.
Okay.
I know it's not everybody's favorite attraction. It's that irritating attraction that drives everybody crazy, right?
I was once stuck on it for 45 minutes.
Yeah. See, that's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. They had built It's a Small World. Originally, the designs were made by a Disney artist named Mary Blair.
Uh-huh.
Mary Blair was an extraordinary artist and a visionary, but her style was very much of the 60s.
Sure.
She built the designs for Small World to be very geometric patterns. So there was just lots of boxes and triangles and circles. And then she would take paper mache and dip it in like tissue paper, dip it in glue, and then scrunch it on the sets to give it this wrinkly texture, and then throw glitter at it to make it sparkle. It's very 60s. And so you go through the ride and you see, well, here's England and here's Italy and here's France. And it all has this kind of geometric, wrinkly pattern, sparkly glitter look.
Sure.
And it was very dated. And even though they built another one in Florida, and then another one in Tokyo, so there had already been 3 built. They decided as a design team that in Paris, they wanted to elevate that design a little bit.
Okay.
So they hired Kent, my friend Kent Elofsson, to completely redesign the show with new designs where it was a much more sophisticated look. Like, here's a child's perspective of looking at world architecture.
Oh, okay.
So Kent created a whole new look for the ride, and I built all the models for it. So all of Kent's drawings I transferred onto thin pieces of masonite, cut them out on the saw, painted them to look exactly the way Kent's color palette wanted to be. We built this giant model that occupied a series of tables that was probably about 16 feet square. So 16 by 16, maybe a foot tall or so. So this was a perfectly scaled model. So this model, when it was done, went to the scene shop, which I think was in England somewhere. They built the sets to look exactly like my models. And then they went to the park in Paris and installed them. And then one day I wasn't on the installation crew. So for me, it was just, I got to go to Euro Disneyland when it opened, get in a boat and ride through what felt exactly like my model.
Wow.
It really does blow your mind, because when you're building it, you really do put your whole head in it.
Sure.
You know, you miniaturize yourself and you see it like, I made a little boat with little people in it, and I would just pretend I was the people in the little boat. So to see, and they spend millions of dollars building these things. So to see this huge investment on this, this cute little thing that we built in the shop, and then to know that it's being enjoyed by hundreds of thousands of people every year really does blow your mind.
Yeah. And that it must have just seemed like sort of the elves in the night made your dream appear in the middle of this park.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool.
I felt very lucky to be able to be part of a big project like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got to experience that also with Roger Rabbit's cartoon Spin that's here in Anaheim, and also was reproduced in Tokyo. I built all those models from scratch by myself. And the ride just looks, every inch looks like my model, and it's mind blowing.
Oh my gosh.
The Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland, the Indiana Jones ride is really a big, spectacular show. And so I was part of a team that helped create and paint those models, and to see it full size was just crazy. So what a fun job. Sometimes I wish I was still doing it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And oh my gosh, those two rides are Indiana Jones ranks up as one of the best theme park rides anywhere. And Roger Rabbit
I agree, really is.
Roger Rabbit is one of my personal favorites. Just the architecture and the decoration inside is so amazing because I'm a cartoon nerd. And so to go in there, to me, it's like walking into this world that doesn't really exist anywhere that I was so excited to see. So that's really cool. That's a testament to your ability as a model maker, that those two rides are so well regarded. If Roger Rabbit was not in Toontown would not be there anymore.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you on that. It really is the jewel in the crown of Toontown.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to capture that 1940s, almost more of a Warner Brothers style cartoon, because that's what the Roger Rabbit style was in the movie.
Sure, yeah.
Much more of a Tex Avery cartoon than a Disney cartoon.
Yeah.
And we wanted that insane frenetic quality of those cartoons in a ride. And of course we created a ride vehicle where you could turn your steering wheel and point your car in any direction. Mm-hmm. All that was just a blast to work on.
Oh yeah. That's so great. And that's my favorite period of cartoon stuff. I'm actually staring at a Warner Brothers model sheet that I have on my wall right over my desk right now. So,
nice.
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So what did you do after leaving Disney then?
I was around 40 when I left Disney, and since then I've been a freelance writer and occasional performer. I also do some stage design and some stage management, and I write plays.
Oh,
so it's hard to write a good play, and I just love the medium and I love the challenge of it. I have a 2-man play in which Charles Dickens meets Lewis Carroll that has had 4 productions. That had a modest success. That's published. It's called A Perfect Likeness.
Okay.
And right now working on a play about a caveman family because I just found that challenge irresistible.
Okay.
So I'm trying to create a story for some cavemen.
Interesting. Tell me more about A Perfect Likeness. With what is your attraction to Lewis Carroll? Because I had noticed that you're also on the extras features on Alice in Wonderland, the Blu-ray. Do you have
Yes, I am.
Yeah, is Lewis Carroll like a thing for you?
Yeah, I think, let's see, I probably saw Disney's Alice in Wonderland that was made in the 50s. I probably saw that when I was really young, like 3 years old, when I was, a little tiny budding artist, and it made a huge impression on me. Not only how colorful and musical it was, but how strange it was, and what an unconventional story, and how bizarre it was for this child to be wandering around this dream world of her own creation without realizing that she's dreaming, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's funny and it's frustrating, and I've just always had a strange connection to it. So I probably read Lewis Carroll's 2 Alice books when I was around 8, and I just felt like I understood them, which is weird because there's tons of archaic jokes, things that you would never know unless you picked up like the annotated Alice that explains everything.
Right.
It's just something just resonated in me. I just got it. I got everything. And I loved Lewis Carroll's narrative voice. The way he tells the story is so amusing because you can tell he was trying to crack his friends up. The way he describes what Alice is doing, like when she eats something and she grows really tall and she hits her head on the ceiling, and then she cries, and then she shrinks, and then she slips and falls and has to swim in a pool of her own tears. I mean, I just find that stuff hilarious.
Sure, yeah.
And you don't really get to hear Lewis Carroll's voice when you see a movie adaptation, because then it's all just dialogue and action. You don't get to hear the narrator describing what's happening.
Right.
So I became a fan of reading the book aloud. Anytime somebody said to me, "Oh, I've never read the original Alice in Wonderland," I always say, "Okay, give me an hour and a half. I'm going to sit you down and read it to you." And sure enough, every time I read it out loud, it always cracks people up. It always has this unique reaction that you just don't get from the movies.
Yeah.
So, of course, I joined the Lewis Carroll Society, and I developed a pretty good-sized library, and you start meeting other Lewis Carroll nerds, going to Lewis Carroll conventions, and so it becomes a whole community. So I was also a fan of other Victorian literature. I really liked reading Dickens. it's just the period I thought was just a really rich time for storytelling. And one day I read in a Lewis Carroll biography that Lewis Carroll, who was a big fan of Charles Dickens, but 20 years younger than him, asked Macmillan, the publisher, if he could get Dickens' address to write to him. And we have a lot of Lewis Carroll's letters. A lot of his correspondence survived and is in museums and collections. But there's never any record of any communication between him and Charles Dickens. And I thought, oh, what a missed opportunity. I just started imagining if they had corresponded and maybe if they had met. I started imagining the kinds of things that they would have talked about. And so I imagined a play. And the play starts off very polite. You know how polite Victorian people are. You know, they're very reserved. And Lewis Carroll was a photographer, and so of course he wanted to take a photograph of Charles Dickens. Dickens didn't really enjoy being photographed, so they're at first this meeting is kind of thorny and it doesn't seem like it's going very well. But then they start to find some common ground and some things they have in common and start to get to know each other and enjoy each other's company. But then they go a little too far and they accidentally reveal a little too much about themselves, and the play becomes a lot more of a way to look inside both of these men in a way that probably wouldn't have happened in a typical Victorian conversation. So it really becomes a drama that shines a pretty harsh spotlight on these men, both in terms of their qualities and what might have been considered a foible, or Dickens famously left his wife and his family and took up with a young actress, and he made some really poor decisions around that. And he was a religious man. I mean, people were very serious about their Christianity back then,
Sure.
And so he had some big demons that he was dealing with. Lewis Carroll, his real name, Charles Dodgson, was a reverend. He was a deacon at Christ Church University, where he had originally gone to college, and then was offered a job teaching math when he graduated. And so he lived there his whole life and lived a very religious life there. But people questioned him about his friendships with children, suspecting that he was not necessarily being a gentleman in these situations, which he took great offense at because he was a perfect gentleman. He deeply respected children, always wanted to have their parents' permission to have them over for tea and to tell them stories and take them on picnics. And he was really troubled by the fact that he, even when he was alive, that there was suspicion that he was not the gentleman that he claimed to be. So this all comes out and is addressed in my play. And it was an incredibly great project to both write and to watch these various companies perform it.
Yeah, that sounds really intriguing. I can't, especially in that time period, I don't think I could imagine two more different writers than those two such different writing styles. Dickens, very sobering in his writing, and Lewis Carroll, obviously, probably not entirely sober.
Well, that's so funny. He writes about the psychedelic effects of mushrooms, and he didn't partake in that stuff at all.
Yeah,
he was a great writer of satire, and so when he would see something like the Confessions of an Opium Eater kind of thing get published, he would read them and make fun of them. So he has this psychedelic style that doesn't come from firsthand experience. He's basically just making fun of the experience that was, if somebody would drink too much absinthe and have a hallucination and write about it, those things fascinated him. But there's no evidence that he ever partook of anything himself. Which blows my mind.
Interesting.
The other funny thing about what you just mentioned about how the sober aspects of Dickens' storytelling and the crazy aspects of Lewis Carroll's is really reversed when you look at their personalities, because Dickens loved to be the life of the party. He drank too much. He stayed up late. He caroused with his buddies. He was just a real bon vivant. And who died early, at age 56, I think, because he basically burned himself out.
Wow.
Lewis Carroll, on the other hand, led a very straight-laced life that was very ordered, and he was a real stickler for manners and politeness. And yet, when you look at the way they wrote, it just seemed like they switched places when they wrote.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it also sounds like artistically, I have way more in common with Lewis Carroll than I thought I did. So I have to investigate that a little more. That's really very cool. Very cool. So is that play currently running anywhere or looking for production?
No, there's no productions of it at the moment, but it's published through Playscripts Incorporated. It's very easy to go to aperfectlikeness.com and get more information. There's even a little video posted there of highlights from one of the productions. So you can see a couple of actors interpreting some bits and pieces. It's just a beautiful video. And anybody can license the play.
Okay.
Or just read it. If you go to Playscripts Incorporated, you can buy a hard copy or download an electronic copy.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. I'm going to have to check that out. That's really cool. So then what's next for Quartermaster on the docket? Where are you guys playing? I know you said you're working on another album.
Yeah, working on the album is what's happening right now. We have a recording date in a couple of weeks, so we're rehearsing once a week, which is a lot for us, and trying to tighten ourselves up. We just got a new song come down the pipe called "Long Way Down Below."
Okay,
that I wrote the lyrics for. James wrote the music and the arrangement, and it's a song about a guy who joins a pirate crew with the loftiest of hopes. But he doesn't get along with the first mate. And before you know it, he's on the first mate's bad side. And next thing you know, he's getting whipped. And the next thing you know, he's walking the plank. And so it's basically a song about drowning in the ocean.
All right.
So it's a fabulously dark song. You know, we have a lot of perky songs, a lot of drinking songs and dirty songs. They're fun. We wanted something that was more like a haunted march.
Okay.
And James just totally nailed it. So we just started learning this a week ago. We hope to get it on the album. So it's just, I just always get really excited when we get a new song.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's what we're working on.
Fantastic.
Our next live performance is probably not going to be until we were going to go to the Casa Renaissance Fair for Pirate Weekend, but just not enough of us are available. And it's a long schlep from Los Angeles.
Sure.
It's like 300 miles.
Yeah.
That was frustrating. We really wanted to go. So I think our next live performance is not going to be until the Dickens Fair at the Cow Palace in San Francisco.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I will. I'll have to come up and see you guys. Hopefully, I think I'm on the road for half of December, but I'll try and get up there and see you guys.
Yeah, that's a pretty long running show now. Dickens Fair now opens the week before Thanksgiving. So
that's right.
That's actually like mid-November. And then it plays right up until almost Christmas. So it's like 6 weekends.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Cool.
We're not going to be there all the weekends. Of course, I think we're probably going to be there just December 1st and 2nd.
Okay.
And we get to sing on the Patty West stage, which is the stage where the Sea Dogs hang out. The Sea Dogs are awesome. They do several shows a day, but then they loan their stage to several other groups. And we love singing there. So yeah, that's where you'll find us.
Fantastic. Where's the best place online for people to keep up with what you guys are doing?
Facebook is right now our only online presence.
All right.
So if you look for Quartermaster Band on Facebook, you'll find us there.
Good deal. I will. I'll link that up in the show notes so that everybody's got it and they can keep up with you. And I will try and come see you guys at the Dickens Fair because I haven't been in a couple years and I would like to go. I will drag my girlfriend along.
It's a great event. I tell people that the Dickens Christmas Fair in San Francisco is one of the best events in the world.
Yeah, it's a good one.
If you like that theme park escape experience, it's one of the best.
Yep. Very cool. Very cool. Well, Daniel, thanks so much for taking the time to do this, man. I'm glad we finally got this together, squeezing it in with everything else.
You bet, Phil. And please do call me Rover. That's my full-time nickname.
All right. I will. Thank you, Rover. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Phil.
Now I want you to come over. That's how that, isn't that how that works?
That is the way that works.
Right. And there it is, friends. That is my interview with Daniel Rover, singer. Man, so much stuff. Like that guy has a laundry list of dream jobs that he's done that so many of us would like to have. So that was really, really fun. If you want to find out more about Quartermaster, go to facebook.com/QuartermasterBand. That's where you can find them. And what'd you like? What'd you learn? Did you hear something you didn't know before or something you wanted to jump in the conversation with? I always want to do that when I'm listening to podcasts. I always want to go, ooh, I got something to add to that. Maybe that's just me because I got a big mouth. But if you feel like that too, come join us over on Facebook, facebook.com/underthecrossbones. Leave us a little comment there, either in the show thread or wherever you want. That's fine. And let us know what you think. That's always cool. On Twitter, we're at Under Crossbones, so you can catch us over there as well. We're sponsored today by Pirate Radio, The Treasure Coast, WKKC-DB, playing the best music of today's hits and yesterday's classics. And Pirate Radio Talk, playing the best pirate shows, including Under the Crossbones, 24/7, all commercial free. To listen, go to pirateradio.thetreasurecoast.com or grab the Pirate Radio WKKC-DB app for your phone. That's the music station. If you want to hear the talk stuff, go to pirateradiotc.com or grab the Pirate Radio Talk app for your phone. You can get us on Alexa, lots of different places. Just scream at an appliance that you want to hear Under the Crossbones or Pirate Radio The Treasure Coast, and that appliance will obey your orders. Maybe not the refrigerator yet, but I'm pretty sure they're working on that. All brought to you by iTreasure Radio, the very best digital media from independently owned stations at iTreasureRadio.com. I got a free ebook for you. We haven't talked about this in a while. I got a free ebook for you if you're new to the show. It's Pirates of Panama or Buccaneers of America by Alexander Exquemelin, originally published in 1678. So, man, it is right there in the Buccaneery period, right there. And Alexander Exquemelin was a doctor who ended up on pirate ships and wrote about his his experience, his firsthand account, and he put it in a book, and people read it, and you can read it too. And I've got a cool ebook version of it for you. Just go to underthecrossbones.com, click on the free ebook link, and you can grab it right there. Or if you're out and about and all you got your phone with you, text the word pirate and your email address to 94253. Just text the word pirate and your email address to 94253, and that will kick you back a little link right there to download the book. That's our show for today. I appreciate you being here as always. This was a really good, fun one today, I thought. I really enjoyed this one. If you want to find out more about Quartermaster and Rover there, go to facebook.com/QuartermasterBand. And that's where all their stuff is. If you want to find out more about what SR Staley's up to, go to srstaley.com. That's Staley with an E, Staley. And, of course, you can always go pre-order his new book, Calusa Spirits, at Southern Yellow Pine Publishing. Their website is syppublishing.com. Cool shows coming up. We got some amazing stuff coming up. Next week, Jess Severs of the Bluefoot Pirate Adventures. And that's going to be a fun one. We had a great talk. And the week after that, Clay Clement, a.k.a. I can't even say a.k.a. Talderoy. Yes, that's probably a name you've heard in the pirate community in the past. Talderoy, right? Some people know the myth. Some people know the man. Some people just know the song by the Pirates Charles called Talderoy. We're going to talk to the guy that song is about. So that's coming up in a couple weeks. And I've got other things on the calendar that are going to blow your freaking mind. We got some cool stuff. So get all the show notes for this episode at underthecrossbones.com/157. And I'll see you next week. Thanks.